Hi guys, thanks for joining me again. We're going to be making a Turkish inspired manti today. I'm going to be filling it up with lamb, and usually Turkish manti are quite little, so we're going to make them pretty small. I've heard people say they expect about 40 to 50 manti per spoon, but that's pretty insane. We're going to be making small ones, but not minuscule. As always, we're going to be starting off by making the dough, as the dough always needs to be rested before you continue to work with it. So we're going to get that out of the way. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to mix an egg in with about 120 mils of just tap water, and I have 300 grams of all-purpose flour here. I'm going to add a bit of salt. Using my fork, I'm just going to beat the egg into the water. Just make sure your egg's well mixed in there. And then I'm going to pour this egg mixture over top of my flour. Before I get my hands in there, we're just going to use a fork to just stir everything together. So this should be quite a soft dough, not going to be very dry, should be well hydrated. So we're just stirring this together so the flour absorbs that bulk of the egg and water mixture. Then we'll turn it out onto our surface. Alright, so we're just going to combine our shaggy bits of dough together, and then we'll begin to knead. We never want to flip the ball of dough over. Center your kneads in the middle on top, always. And then we want to combine all these dry bits to our dough as well. And you knead it until it's ready. So it's ready when it's well mixed all together, it's homogeneous, we get a nice smooth ball of dough that is even all around. So I teach so many dumpling classes and so many classes involving dough. The biggest mistake I see when people are kneading at this point is they press really hard down. So when you press really hard down, you create tears on the other side, which is kind of the opposite of what you want to do when you're trying to achieve a smooth ball of dough. So you're just gently pressing and rolling the ball of dough. So this ball of dough shouldn't be too tough, just because it's pretty well hydrated. But you see, nice smooth ball, and when you poke it, it shouldn't keep the indent of your thumb or finger for too long. It wants to go back to its former shape. So that's why resting dough is really important. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna cover this up, whether it be your bowl or some plastic wrap, and it just needs a 30-minute nap before you turn it into a thin sheet of dough. All right, so now we're gonna move on to make the filling. I'm doing a lamb filling today, but another popular ground meat choice would be beef, and sometimes a mix of both. So this is probably the most simple filling that we're gonna do out of our entire dumpling series. So it's ground meat, pepper, salt, and onion. You can throw in some extra herbs, like a common one's dried mint or fresh parsley. We're gonna keep it super simple today, and we're just gonna do really finely chopped onion. A lot of the times people will grate the onion. I'm just not a big fan of grating onion, so I'm just gonna really finely chop this onion, put it in here. So this is 1 pound of ground lamb, and this is a small onion. We're gonna finely dice it now. My knife is not as sharp as I think it is. I'm getting some onion juice reacting with my eye. I'm gonna have a little cry. So 1 cup of finely diced onion. we'll reserve this for something else. So with our cup of finely diced onions with our 1 pound of lamb, now we're going to season. We're gonna use some salt, some pepper, and I have some Aleppo chili flakes here. So pinch of salt, pepper, black pepper, and chili flakes. The amount of chili flakes is totally up to you, depending on your spice level. You can just leave it out if you're not a fan. Have my trusty little glove. We're gonna mix this up really well. And remember, the most important thing about making a filling is tasting it to ensure that it's properly seasoned. So we're gonna pinch off a small little amount here. And we're gonna pop it in the microwave for about 30 seconds. Okay, so I have my little piece of microwave cooked filling here. Just gonna give it a quick taste. I'm pretty happy with that, so we're gonna carry on and make dumplings with this. Okay, so now we have everything that we need to make our manti. So I have my dough here that's been rested, covered of course. And I have some dusting flour. I'm gonna cheat today because I have my automatic pasta roller here. If you have it, use it, you know, so you can definitely roll this out by hand as well, but it's just gonna take you a little bit more time. So I just have some dusting flour here, just so it doesn't stick to the roller or your rolling pin. I'm just gonna divide the dough into 2 pieces, cover the piece that we're not using. I forgot my rolling pin, so let me grab that. Trusty little rolling pin. We're just gonna roll it out, so again, it fits through the thickest setting of our machine. Here, you can see it's not paper thin. I can't quite see my hands through the piece of dough. We're not making like really delicate thin pastas or anything. Just make sure it's nice and even. So this is actually the first dumpling in our series that we don't do a round wrapper out of. We actually want to do square wrappers. So and again, we're gonna do the Turkish style ones, which are a little bit smaller, so we don't want big square wrappers. We're not doing wontons, right? So I'm just gonna cut squares out of this. Please don't make fun of me. I'm not very good at making perfect squares, but we're aiming for about 2.5 inches for a square. So I'm gonna do lengthwise first. I think we can only probably get 2 rows of squares, so I'm just gonna do it straight down the middle. And then I'll try my best to square her up. You can definitely use a ruler if you want, because mine are not going to be perfect, consistent squares. As I'm looking at it, they're definitely not perfect squares, so I'm gonna go in just because I care and I'm trying to make them more even in size. And dough's very forgiving, so any squares that aren't perfect, what you can do is just collect them back up into a dough again and just roll it out again. right, so we'll select the ones that are the best squares. Oh, and can actually get some bonus squares up here. Good stuff. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put small little dots of filling into each square. The best thing to do is just pick it up with your hands and just dot them in. And because you're using fresh dough, the dough is quite stretchy, so it will stretch around the filling. There's lots of different shapes for Manti as well. Even within Turkey, depending on the area of Turkey that you're looking at, they also have a lot of different varieties of Manti as well. Okay, so my hands are nicely rinsed from all the filling, so I'm gonna start forming Manti. So to form Manti, I connect 2 points together, and then I connect the other 2 points to that same middle, creating a 4-corner pyramid. Don't worry about a little bit of filling popping out. It'd be easier if I just put a little bit less filling in, but what's the point of making a poorly and sadly filled dumpling? We have enough Manti here to at least make 2 plates of Manti. So before carrying on to turn all this filling into more Manti, I'm just going to show you how to complete the dish. So the sauce for the Turkish Manti, it's usually separated into 3 different sauces. So there is a spice butter sauce, a caramelized tomato sauce, as well as a spice yogurt sauce. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little bit and condense the butter sauce and the tomato sauce together. So I have about half a stick of butter in here. And to give it a bit more flavor, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna brown the butter. I'm gonna brown the butter before I add the tomato paste in. So it's actually tomato paste that we're using today, not pureed tomatoes or tomato sauce, just canned tomatoes, just the flavors are more concentrated there. But browning butter is where we're gonna get so much flavor. So you don't wanna do it on very high heat. Initially, just melting butter. The butter will start to boil a little bit, and then once it starts to boil and all that excess moisture cooks off in the butter, the solids in the butter, the milk solids will start to brown, and that transforms the flavor of butter quite a bit. So during this bubbling stage, you do want to be pretty close by. During the melting portion, no problem. It bubbles, and then the bubbles subside, and then we're almost at that. We got brown butter, so that's really quick. I'm going to kill the heat really quickly because I don't want it to continue. There is our brown butter there. So all those brown milk solids completely transform the flavor of our butter. It makes it nice and nutty and almost tastes sweet even though there's no sugar. All right, so at this stage, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the tomato paste. If you see black flecks, that means that you've gone past brown butter and you made burnt butter. So not exactly the flavor profile we're going for. So I'm just gonna mix the tomato paste. I'm using about a can, 1 small can of tomato paste. So we're just cooking down that tomato paste a little bit before we introduce moisture in the form of water. Okay, my water is going in. Aleppo peppers. You can also use cayenne or paprika, totally up to you. But now we have a sauce going on. And depending on how thin or thick you like the sauce, you can just add a bit more water if you'd like. I'm quite enjoying this consistency, so I'll leave it as is. I'm gonna kill the heat. Our sauce is ready to go. We're just gonna season with a touch of salt. So very rich sauce, super flavorful. That not burnt butter, sorry, or browned butter is gonna add so much flavor. And super concentrated tomato paste instead of just tomato sauce. All right, so the other sauce that we're making is just a yogurt sauce. So I'm using a full fat Greek yogurt because, you know, all that butter I use, you're not watching calories in this dish at all, so there's no sense. So full fat yogurt, what we're gonna do is we're gonna grate a clove of garlic in here. So you want a pretty fine grate. Garlic's a personal thing. If you want to go for 2-3 cloves, totally up to you. But I find raw garlic quite sharp, so you know, because it doesn't quite cook down. Some salt, and I'm going to add some olive oil. Nice extra virgin olive oil. More fats, more calories. All right, so we're going to give that a good stir. That's it. That's how simple it is to make the yogurt sauce. I'm just waiting for my water to come up to a boil. Once it's boiling, I will throw my Manti in there and we're ready to assemble our dish because we have our 2 sauces ready to go. All right, I have boiling water here now, so we're ready to cook off our Manti. But just a cool note, sometimes some recipes call for baking off the Manti in the oven first. Before boiling them. So baking them obviously gives them a different texture and a slightly different flavor. I'm gonna keep it simple today and straight up boil them. So little Manti buddies are gonna go into the boiling water. I'm not salting the water. The sauces are pretty heavily seasoned as well as the fillings, so I don't find it necessary. But if you'd like to, you certainly can. Give it a little gentle stir once all the Manti are in there, just so they don't form a bond with the bottom of your pot. Otherwise they will tear. Everyone likes to say once they float, they're ready, but no. Because sometimes dough will float just because the dough becomes buoyant once it's cooked. But for me, I always like to thermometer check them. Ground meat has to be cooked to 72 degrees Celsius in order to be safe to consume. Your best friend in the kitchen if you care about safety and quality. It's the #1 question that I get asked for every single cooking class. How long do you cook it for? That is dependent on so many factors. Your vessel, how many dumplings you're cooking, the size of your dumplings. So the only way to tell is temperature. Great, I'm gonna pull one out just to see what temperature it's at. It is well over 72 degrees, so they're safe. See, and they're floating, but they were floating before they were safe. So I'm gonna kill the heat. Pull out our little cute Manti buddies. So our butter and tomato sauce combined together, so instead of having to create 2 separate sauces for this, I'm gonna coat them nicely. Tomato butter sauce. So you didn't see me do it, but I actually threw some sugar in the sauce because I tasted it, and tomato paste obviously is quite tart, and I just wanted to balance out that tartness with a little bit of sugar. Especially when you're getting yogurt, which is also tart. I didn't want tart on tart, so little sugar helps combat how sour things are. So that's my tomato sauce. Now I'm gonna put some yogurt sauce on it. I'm gonna do a couple cute dollops around. Good to me. Because I didn't put any dry mint into my filling, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna garnish with fresh mint. Fresh sprigs here. I'm gonna rip up a couple leaves. It's always nice to add some color onto your finished dish. Your eyes eat first. All right, so that is our finished dish. I'm very excited to have my first bite here. Okay, so I'm so excited to take my first bite of this dish. Make sure I get all the different components, getting a piece of mint, getting some yogurt sauce in there. Okay, that's so good. Super, super delicious, that tomato butter sauce. The brown butter does come through that yogurt with the garlic in there because as you notice, we didn't add any garlic to any other component of the dish. So the garlic in the yogurt really pops, really nice. The little hint of mint, just a really nice, well-balanced dish. Super, super tasty, really meaty because, you know, I shoved a whole bunch of lamb into each manti. Let's go for another bite. Thanks for joining me today to make a Turkish style manti. I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.